Good morning, and this is John T. G in the morning on Big George Radio. Right, this morning, so around 7:15, John T gets on his soapbox, and this morning I'm very fortunate to have as a special guest Angie Henrico. Angie is an educator who has taught for many years and been witness to changes beyond that which most of the men in the street may be aware. And so, Angie, pull up a corner of my soapbox and let's get acquainted.
Good morning, Jonathan, and thank you so much for the invite. It is an absolute pleasure to share some of my experiences with your radio station this morning.
Thank you, Angie. As I say, what a pleasure to have you on board. A lovely lady so early in the morning. So tell me, Angie, how long have you been teaching? And maybe you could share with us and the listeners a little bit about your path in education.
Let me first start by sharing the highlights of my path in education. I think I used to be very blessed as a young teacher with building relationships with students because, I absolutely have a heart for children and their well-being and the path on their way to adulthood. So that's been an absolute pleasure doing that. And or the reason why I say I've been blessed is also because I still have contact with some of the children. I've been fortunate to be at their weddings and even with their children. So yeah, now I get to the part where I say I've been a teacher for 23 years. So yes, the years have gone along and by, but yeah, still happy doing it and still very passionate about what we do. But nowadays, I do not stand in the classroom physically anymore. I am the director and the owner of Liweri's Online Academy, which is an Afrikaans curriculum provider for a CAPS curriculum for homeschooling families. So yeah, I've had many highlights in the past with not only in the classroom and academic highlights, but also with stage productions. I love drama and music and singing and dancing and all those kinds of things. So it's been such a wonderful journey throughout the years.
Angie, that's an incredible resume. Now, we've connected on a number of points here. You talk about watching children grow, and I've been involved in Sinisa, which is the horse sport for schools. Been involved there for about, I guess, close on 20 years now. While my children were growing up, I have four daughters, so I do understand what an honor it is to see the kiddies grow and to see them on Facebook now getting married and having kids. And it does make me feel old. The reason for this conversation this morning was to talk about bullying in schools. I may talk under correction, but I believe that the type of bullying or bullying has changed over the last 2 decades. Maybe you could comment.
Yes, Jonathan, you are so right. This is a very sensitive topic in the end, and normally we brush this under the carpet or we shy away from it. It's like politics and religion. You don't want to address it anyway because you might step on somebody's toes. But now, to be honest, in the 2 decades that I've basically been in education, as a young teacher, the first few years, I did not have to deal with any kinds of bullying because you are still learning the process and developing yourself as an educator. But later on in the second decade, basically, especially in the last 7 years, I had to deal with bullying closely, not just in the workplace, but on a personal level as well with my own kids, and how to handle the situation in the workplace and then also how to handle it at home, not just as a mother being upset about the whole situation, but what am I going to do to help my child to get through this difficult process and be okay again emotionally. So there's two perspectives in this whole topic that we are dealing with today.
Angie, you've touched a little heartstring there, because I do understand. I mean, parenting is tough, so I get you when it comes to your own kids, but even more difficult, I guess, when you're looking after somebody else's children. And we parents do rely on the educators a lot to look after our children and to help them grow. So, kudos to you and everybody in the teaching profession. Was your worst experience?
To be honest, not only is this a sensitive topic and a very sad topic to have as well. For me, every single experience that I had with bullying was horrible, as it affected a young developing mind, and the scars that it left from the bullying was life-changing for some of the learners. And the reason why I do not really want to name specific events is because one of your listeners might be one of the children that was part of that specific event, and this might trigger a horrible memory for them. So, yes, I'm going to leave it at that, if that's okay.
Angie, I can empathize with where you're coming from. I do fully understand. As I said to you, uh, these things are tough. They do hurt, and often we're not sure how to handle them. So my next question was to be, how were you able to handle it? But you obviously dealt with it as best as you could as an educator and as a mother, and were there for them on an emotional level to guide. And just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Jonathan, for understanding. But I do want to mention, even though I did not mention any specifics in the previous question that you asked, there is a way to handle this. Now, firstly, there's a reason why educators are outside for break duties. It's not to punish them and to take away their break time, but it is also there to monitor the children, not just with incidents and accidents that might happen, but also behavior. Now, there's two different kinds of behaviors. There's children that's acting out and bullying and doing the wrong things all the time, but there's also children that's totally withdrawing from society that needs to be monitored. So first of all, we as educators need to monitor the children in order for us to identify who will be falling in which category, basically. Once you have established that and you identify that somebody's being victimized, then you must start deciding if it is, or not deciding, but determining if it is physically or emotionally through investigation. After that, and once you have established that, then you can start to try and open the communication line. Now, this is the difficult part and the crucial part, because not all children want to talk about it, or they want to open up to people. So now, firstly, this is so important for educators to build a relationship with the children that's sitting in front of them in the classrooms, so that the children feel safe and that they trust their educators. Only then will the child start opening up and normally the teachers will have a question and answer scenario, or they will sketch a different scenario for the children to identify with, to be able to get them to open up and start talking about the situation. So yes, I did not want to go into depth previously, but this is basically how educators try and handle worst case scenarios at school where bullying is taking place.
Angie, that's been a massive information for us to absorb. So I'd like to take a time out and just play a little bit of music. So we go into a song And we'll be back with Angie Henrico
On Big
straight
George
after
Radio.
this.
And joining me this morning on my soapbox is educator, counselor, and mom. It's Angie Henrico. Angie has been sharing her wisdom eked out of 23 years of being a teacher. Angie, when do you as a parent start making drastic decisions like changing schools and depending on the child? Like, how will it affect their sports, their teamwork, group work, choirs, extramural activities, and the like? Does it have a huge effect?
Well, I must be honest, this will all depend on family to family. It often happens that the realization that your child is being bullied are recognized too late. So, but unfortunately, this happens quite often nowadays, as parents are not as involved as we used to be. We are working full day, not necessarily our fault that we can't be involved, but this is due to the society we live in and the demands that we have financially, etc., etc., etc. That's a whole different topic. But I think I'm going to use myself as an example here so that I don't step on anybody's toes. So, from my experience, when I was physically teaching and standing in front of a class, it was difficult to attend meetings and activities at my children's school. But I've been blessed because my parents used to stand in for me all the time. And if I wasn't able to be there, they would go in my place. But there were a few incidents that needed to be dealt with. But as a single mom, I was working full time. I was at school sometimes until 6, 7 at night. So it was impossible for me to be as involved as I wanted to be. Now, you know, this is, touching some heartstrings here, and it's quite embarrassing for me to admit it, but I missed some of the signs. And in the end, my children went through certain events and situations that wasn't dealt with properly by the authoritative figures at the respective school that they were in. And in the end, I decided to remove my school from the public, of my children from the public school system. And immediately everybody think, but you're running away from your problems. That is not the case at all. At that point in time, it just made it easier for me as a mom to deal with the problems at hand that was going on emotionally, first of all, of my children, and not having the tummy aches, the headaches, the not eating, not sleeping well, all those different signs that I actually missed initially, but now, being at home with the kids, I can physically address them. So, no, we were not running away from the problem. We were just trying to find a better solution, and which we did. So, both my kids are being homeschooled. Um, and the next question on some of the listeners' lips will be, but what about extramurals and sports and socializing and things like that? My children both still do sport. My daughter's still playing hockey for her high school. My son is doing karate. And so they are still socializing and they're doing their sports, which they both love. And it just gives us a lot more time to spend together. And in the end, their academics have excelled tremendously. Not that they did not do well. Previous years, they've always been very strong academically, but it's just opened a whole different world for us. So now the time we have together, even though I still work full day, but I work from home, are so precious. So we have been blessed tremendously. So my advice to parents would be involved and monitor your child's behavior. To make sure your child has the safe environment, not only at home, but at school as well. Make sure they talk to you. That communication is so important between parents and children. Make the time. If you don't have time, please do make the time, even if it is in the car on the way to school or to a birthday party or wherever. Have that chat with your child to make sure their emotional well-being is on track and everything is going according to how they are supposed to develop.
So it does appear that we need to be present in the moment. We really need to give the children our commitment. But when do you know when we as parents or the school can no longer deal with the situation? At what point should we be going to the police station?
This is also quite an intricate question, because each parent will have to decide the severity of the bullying that's taking place. If it is a constant harassment, that is against the law. If it is going against the child's rights, because we do have specific rights for our children in our country, so then there is certain protocols that needs to take place. This is now after the, let me just go through the chain of command so that parents can know which steps to be needs to be taken. So now the parents, first of all, address this with the educator that is involved with your child. That's normally the registered teacher. And then after the registered teacher can't do anything about it, she will report to the head of department, the HOD. If the head of department cannot take care of the problem, it will escalate to the deputy principal and then finally to the principal. This is now also where the bullies' parents will be called in to address the matter to see if there's any mutual beneficial solution for both parties involved and how the situation can be rectified. If nothing gets done after that, I always advise the parents first before you go to the police station, because now you are still dealing with a child that's problematic. And there are certain factors that's causing these problems in this child. And without ruining your own child's emotional involvement, but also the possibility of ruining a child's future by opening a case, you first then send a formal letter to the Department of Education so that they can see if there can't be something done towards this whole matter. After everything has been recorded, there's evidence of what has happened, and nothing is being done, only then your last resort is to go to the police station with us. It might seem like a tedious and long process to parents who's dealing with an emotional child, but remember, there's always a reasoning behind actions. And there's always, in every situation, there is a chain of command, and you have to follow the necessary processes, because once you arrive at the police station and you are dealing with a minor, then their parents also needs to be involved, and if the parents weren't involved, then there won't be a case. So there's a whole process of steps that needs to be taken before it gets to the police station.
Angie, that is very valuable information, and I really want to thank you for sharing for that with myself and the listeners today. That was Angie Henrico. But before I go, Angie, time for you to shine. What does your school offer, and what are the advantages does it have in avoiding bullying?
Thank you, Jonathan. Being a curriculum provider online, we are very fortunate that we do not have to deal with bullying on a daily basis like educators at school. But we do have many learners that joined our program, our online program, because they were victimized at school and they were subjected to bullying. So now we have the privilege to provide these young minds with the necessary life skills on how to cope with different life situations on their way to adulthood. Now, this is taught through our curriculum at Leori's Online Academy, through life skills and how to deal with daily situations when you are in a pickle, basically. We do follow the CAPS curriculum as prescribed by the policy documents of the Department of Education, but we also focus on the well-being of the child emotionally. I'm sure throughout the whole conversation, anybody that listened to us were able to hear, I am passionate about children and the well-being of the young minds and how they develop. So this is absolutely crucial to make sure that all our children are provided for, not just emotionally, cognitively, but also academically. And this is where our academy came from, is the fact that I want children to make sure, that all children are provided for on all the different aspects that is necessary during their development. So we provide this throughout visual material to the children with our lessons, and they are able to carry on at their own pace on a daily basis with no stress, no anxiety attacks or anything like that, which some of our little darlings had to endure during their time at public school and private schools. Now, Jonathan, also to you and the radio station, thank you so much for this opportunity to share my thoughts and views with you. It might not always be what everybody else thinks and how their opinion is about the subject, but it was an absolute blessing to be here today and to be able to share what I have experienced throughout the years. I wish you guys all the best of luck, and yeah, it's wonderful to have these kinds of topics just to inform all the parents out there how to deal with certain situations. Thank you so much once again. Be blessed and have a good day.